Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Namaste, Hare Krishna.
Namaste. Because you spend so much time with Krishna ji, what does Krishna Bhagwan mean to you?
The Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, the Upanishads, the Vedanta present Krishna in a very philosophical and a very profound manner. Bhagavatam begins by saying Krishna is the Param Satya. The fame, the wealth, the education, everything is gone when that person goes away and something called a death happens.
What do you think was the conversation between Hitler when he died? What was that conversation between him and the Paramatma?
You see, a person who has committed such degree of crime and killing, the Lord does not directly deal with them. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tata dehantara praptihi dhirastatra namuhiti. Bhagavad Gita. Krishna has used two words here, deha and dehi. Deha means the body. Dehi means the occupant in the body.
The Gyan of Gita, it came out as a conversation between Arjuna and Shree Krishna in a war zone. Why did Shree Krishna choose that specific event, that point, and why did he choose only Arjuna?
You see, you must understand Arjuna's situation.
Whenever someone talks about Sri Krishna, in the recent past, I've seen a lot of people who have been saying that nobody like Radha Rani ever existed. What is the truth about this, and who is Radha Rani exactly?
Namaste Jai Hind, I am Jayesh Gangan and this is The J Report, a podcast where we discuss everything that is happening around the world through a Bharatiya lens. Recently, I had a beautiful opportunity to go to Vrindavan and visit the Vrindavan Chandrodaya Mandir. And on tonight's podcast, we have Shree Chanchalpathi Das ji. Shree Chanchalpathi Das ji is a vice chairman and co-mentor of the global Hare Krishna movement. He is also a senior vice president of ISKCON Bangalore. He is also the president of Vrindavan Chandrodaya Mandir. In this podcast, we are talking about some of the most beautiful and philosophical questions. We are discussing the life of Shree Krishna. We are talking about Radha Rani. We are talking about Vrindavan. And of course, we also talked about Vrindavan Chandrodaya Mandir and what it is. If you are someone who is going through a tough phase in their life, this podcast is just for you. And if you have reached here, please consider it as Prabhu's Leela and his divine grace. So let's start this beautiful conversation in 3, 2, 1.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Namaste, Hare Krishna.
Namaste. So a lot of people, they tell me that my show's name, it's a bit weird. It's called Avara Musafir. And I usually bring on people who are into spirituality, who talk about big things, who talk about deeper questions of life. And Avara Musafir is not something which they relate with.
Yeah,
So-
when I heard about it, I was also asking our
Yeah.
team, what does this mean? And they explained to me a little bit.
So it's an honor to have you here. And I have a lot of deep questions which I want to ask you because since COVID happened, I have turned into a very spiritual person. Before that, I was something which people call a Nastic. So COVID changed me completely. And today, I hope I can ask you those deeper questions and bring out some of the most profound answers.
Most welcome. Let us
Sure.
explore.
Prabhuji, firstly, I want to know because you spend so much time with Krishna ji, what does Krishna Bhagwan mean to you?
Generally, all Hindus regard Krishna as God,
Right.
and he is. He is Bhagavan. Bhagavad Gita says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. But the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, the Upanishads, the Vedanta present Krishna in a very philosophical and a very profound manner. Bhagavatam begins by saying Krishna is the Param Satya. The Bhagavad Gita says Krishna is Param Brahma. Now, what do these words mean? Srila Prabhupada is our Acharya who presented these ideas, these concepts to the whole world in English language. You know, mostly these are all locked up in Sanskrit in our Vedic
Yeah.
literatures. And not so many of us are very proficient in Sanskrit. And Srila Prabhupada wanted to present, like you asked the question, the deep questions and the equally deep answers from the Vedic literatures in English so that it can reach the world and benefit the world.
Right.
Now, the word Param Satya, Srila Prabhupada translates as absolute truth
Mm.
with a capital A and a capital T. So, what does this mean? You know, even when I became a devotee many years ago, I was still in college, young person, younger than you probably. And I used to wonder, why is Krishna described as absolute truth or supreme truth or the ultimate truth? It's stuck in my head for a long time reading Prabhupada's books, the Shastras, the Vedic literature. You know, uh, we understand this world exists. We are all here. I'm talking to you. And we have our team, we have our family, we have our whatever we
Yeah.
interact with, we engage with them. We understand that this is one level of truth, right? We can deal with it. And Krishna has created another kind of an experience for all of us, the dream world. We go to sleep in the night
Yeah.
and we dream, right? And in the dream, we do so many things. And then the alarm goes off, and then we wake up and say, oh, that was a dream. So, a student may pass an exam in the dream. He can't wake up and say, now I've passed the exam. A businessman may strike a big deal and make thousands of hundreds of crores in the dream. He can't wake up and say, let me go and check the bank balance if that money has come. Because the dream is a dream. It was not a real. It vanishes. Now, this world seems to be a little bit more real than the dream. We keep coming back. Even if we go to the dream world, we come back to the same world and we all once again interact with each other. So there seems to be a little bit more stability to
Right.
this world. Now, Krishna develops this idea in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, in the second chapter, he talks about this levels of reality, and he says, Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayorapi drushtontas tvanayos tattvadarshibhihi. You see, Krishna uses two words, sat and asat. Sat means that which exists. Asat means it doesn't exist.
Right.
Sat is something that is substantial. Asat is not substantial. Like the dream was asat, right? The money we earned in the dream is asat.
Right.
We don't care. I become a crorepati or I lose money. It was a dream. It was a nightmare. It's gone. We will shake it off. And we work hard in this world. But then Krishna explains that in our previous life, we were in another situation and we made money there. We had relationships there. We fell in love with somebody there. But there is one alarm that rings in everyone's life, and we wake up from that, and then we can't go back to that situation again, isn't it? Where is all that relationship we had in our previous lives? It's all gone.
Yeah.
So, uh, This world looks like a little protracted, expanded dream. Also doesn't exist in a sense. All the money we make, everything we go away. That's what has happened to people, rich people. They die one day and they go. And then all the heirs, they come back and let's divide the money. And the person who earned the money with great effort and passion, he can't access that anymore, isn't it? The fame, the wealth, the education, everything is gone when that person goes away and something called a death happens. So now, like this, Krishna explains that Sat or Asat, the important criteria is whether it will endure.
Hmm.
Something that endures is called Sat, and something that does not endure with time is Asat. And Krishna says, Ubhayorapi drushtvontas tvanayos tattva darshibihi. Tattva means the truth. Darshibihi means, darshi means one who can see the truth, have concluded by studying the nature of Sat and Asat that endurance and non-endurance is the criteria. So in that sense, this world does not exist in a sense, right? It is temporary. It doesn't exist, meaning it's not that it does not, it is not having substantiality in terms of endurance. It will vanish and it's gone one day. So now Krishna brings, there is another question. So the dream was obviously Asat. This world is also in one sense Asat. Then where is the Sat? Now Krishna says there is another level of spiritual reality, and that is Sat. And that Sat world has come from a source, and the source of that Sat world and the Asat world, everything has come from one source, and that source is a person, and that person is called Krishna, and who is the supreme absolute truth. So, say for instance, there is a man who came from a village. He didn't have anything. He came to the city. He worked hard. 20 years, 30 years, became a rich man. He built a house and became a fairly rich man. And then he invites you, please come and see my house. You go to his house and then you look around, nice draperies, nice interiors, nice house. And then, yeah, this man had nothing. And now he came, worked hard, and he has built this house. So from him, the house has come, isn't it? House was not there. It's his efforts, his energy, his money. So his efforts has manifested in the form of the house. In this, just like from a person, the house has come, we can say. In the same way, there is Krishna. From him, the spiritual reality, the material reality, and all existence appears.
Right.
And that person is the Sarva Karana Karanam. He is Krishna. So this is the kind of an essence we get from the Gita. When you read the Gita, when you read the Bhagavatam, you get a certain perspective of reality, right? We are all looking at through different perspectives. The right perspective, the left perspective, the historical perspective, the scientist perspective, Western perspective. So many perspectives are there. Now, let's look at the world through Krishna's perspective, the Gita perspective. That's what Bhagavad Gita presents. And so we see Krishna as the absolute truth, as a person, absolute person, Sarvakarana Karanam, cause of all causes, source of everything. And that is the way Krishna is presented in the Vedic literature.
But why is this? For example, today your team they took me to all the temples in Vrindavan, and there was this one place where Prabhu has played his leela, and there was this very old tree over there. I've been told it was around 5,500-year-old tree, and I saw this one girl who kept her hand on the tree, and she started crying, and that was happening in front of me. I'm guessing that happened because she had a connection with Sri Krishna. What is this connection with Krishna that brings out so many locked up emotions inside you? What does Krishna do to you? What is this um, secret that he has kept for him and his devotees?
You see, it's like this. There is a mother. The mother has a child. And you know how much the mother feels for the child? We all understand that language of emotion between a mother and the child, or how much the child feels for the mother. The child, mother got the child ready, sent the child to the school, very early toddler child, a very early child. Now, after the child has gone to the school, the mother is going about with her daily chores in the house. But every time, the moment she sees a toy of her child, it reminds her of her child. She sees the dress of the child, she's folding it, but she's thinking about the child, isn't it? It is that deep bonding and the feeling. In the same way, Sri Krishna did Leela here in Vrindavan. And when devotees come and relate, oh, Krishna did this Leela here, it connects just like the mother felt for the child. A devotee feels for Krishna, that this is Krishna's Leela Sthali. He did this. And that brings out a certain deeper devotion. Now, important thing is, we all have a relation with Krishna, and Krishna is trying to help us explore, experience, understand, appreciate, perceive that relationship. That act of perceiving that relation is called yoga. So that is why you see devotees, when they see something connected with Krishna, they feel very strongly.
When someone walks on the path of spirituality, everything directs that person towards one word, which is Paramatma. Now, in Hinduism, when we look at God, there are so many different words for God, like Paramatma, Bhagwan, Ishwar. What exactly is Paramatma, and why are there so many synonyms to this Paramatma?
Very good. Although you have asked this question, Paramatma, it's a very technical word. In the Vedic literatures, uh, Paramatma, there is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddesh Arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutanam yantrarudhani mayaya. God is situated in the heart of every living entity. That feature of God, who is seated in the heart of you, me, an ant, a bird, a rich man, a poor man, in the heart of Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hriddesh Arjuna Tishtati. Ishvara is Hriddeshu Tishtati. He is situated in the heart. That feature of the Lord is called Paramatma. Now, is God's work only to sit in the heart of living entities? No, God has many other features, many other activities. He does many more things. So, in this feature of being in the heart of every living entity and giving direction, ready to give knowledge and understanding, that feature of God is called Bhagavan. Like, say, for instance, there is a policeman, and when we see him in his uniform, hey, we say he's a police. But when he goes home, for his wife, he's a husband. For his children, he is the father. So he has many roles. But one role, common people we recognize when he wears the uniform, is that he is a police officer. In the same way, God has many roles. One of the roles he plays is that being situated in the heart of every living entity, that feature is technically called Paramatma. There is another feature of the Lord where he is with his devotees. and loving devotees and doing different activities which are called leela. Our activities, our work is called karma. We have to work. It's our duty. If we don't do that, we will not get our money. We will not get our earning. We have to. God has no such duties. He is free and he has loving devotees, and with them, he performs activities. They're called Leela. So that feature of the Lord, where he performs all these different Leelas, is called Bhagavan. So, like this, the Lord has many aspects, and based on these aspects, these attributes, these roles he plays, he has multiple names. If a simple police officer can have so many names, why not the Lord who performs unlimited roles? In fact, he has unlimited names.
But then you said Paramatma. It is that feature of Lord which is present inside all of us in
Yeah.
our deeper Atma.
Yeah.
Is Lord or was Lord present inside Ravan, Hitler, or all of these cruel people who have taken birth since the beginning?
He was in their heart also.
Why couldn't they realize him?
You see, Lord is a perfect gentleman. He will not force his way on us. He will force his way on us when we are small, when the soul is in the body of an animal. Just like children, parents control them. Don't do this, don't do this. Come here, sit here. But when the child grows up, becomes a teenager, then the parents don't control and can't control.
Yeah.
And then the child is given, the boy or a girl is given a little bit more freedom. But the parents expect the boy or the girl who is grown up will use his intelligence, reflect on what my parents have done to me, and be grateful to the parents, and be nice and be loving to the parents. So, in the same way, God, in the lower species, he gives them, he controls them, and they have very little freedom. So they just go about doing their work, hunting for food and shelter and mating, and those things go on. In the human form of life, the consciousness is more developed. And in the developed consciousness, Krishna will not control us, but he has given us a little freedom, and he wants us to use our intelligence and use our wisdom, use our viveka, discriminating ability, and respond to God, not just under force, not under stick. For a child, a stick and all those things may work. For an adult, a stick will not work. It is knowledge, enlightenment, experience. So Krishna is giving living entities in the form of human life an experience, so that, and also inputs in the form of the Vedic knowledge through devotees, so that they can make wise decisions. So that is the reason, even in the heart of evil people that you mentioned, Ravan, Hitler, all of them, Krishna was present in their heart. And he was willing to give guidance, but they had shut themselves to God's guidance. They were so egoistic. They felt that my knowledge, my understanding, that's everything. They were very arrogant. You see, they were not humble. Am I understanding everything correctly? Can I take some knowledge from someone else, some wise people, some experienced people from wise literatures like the Bhagavad Gita? They were unwilling. And so Ravan had his own brother Vibhishan, who was a great devotee. He counseled him, but Ravan would not listen to him. So the Lord allows. He's there. That is why Krishna is described in the Paramatma feature in the Bhagavad Gita. He is Upadrishta and Anumanta. Upadrishta means he's a witness of everything that we are doing. And he is Anumanta. He's the one who permits. Only when he permits, it will happen. You know, when the living entity persists that I want to do it this way, I want to. Krishna gives guidance in different ways. But After a certain point, he says, all right, you do it, but you will have to bear the consequences of that. And so he is Upadrishta and Anumanta. There is a story. I'll tell you one small story. There was one guru, and he was teaching this verse, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddesh Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutana. He was telling that how the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, and he's the witness, he's the Upadrishta, he's Anumanta. He was describing all this from the Bhagavad Gita. Towards the end of the class, the guru had brought a bag full of bananas, and he distributed one banana to all the students. And he said, my dear students, tomorrow you come back and you should eat this banana in a place where nobody will see, and come back and tell me your experience tomorrow. And so all the students went away. And the next morning, as per the class, they all assembled. And so he asked one by one, where did you eat? And one person said, Gurudev, I went to the riverside. There was nobody. I looked around and I ate it. And another person said, I put a blanket in the night over me, and under the blanket I ate. Nobody saw me. Like that, different people described where they ate. There was one student who had not eaten the banana. He was still holding in his, hey, what happened? And all of them were thinking, hey, why he didn't eat the banana? And so the student said, Gurudev, you taught us from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is seated in the heart and he is watching. So I couldn't find a place where Krishna is not watching me from what you taught me. And hence I could not eat the banana. I brought it back. Now you see, who has understood this knowledge? So like this, Krishna is seated in the heart of every living entity, and that is Paramatma.
Right. I don't know what happens after death, but I'm sure that after our death, we may or may not spend some time with Bhagwan Krishna or whoever the deity you religiously look forward to. What do you think was the conversation between Hitler when he died and went back wherever we go after death? What was that conversation between him and the Paramatma?
You see, a person who has committed such degree of crime and killing, the Lord does not directly deal with them. His agents deal. You know, there is a criminal in our country. Is Prime Minister dealing with him?
No.
No. There is a home minister. Under the home minister, there's a police department. In the police department, there are the commissioners, assistant commissioners, a section, what is that? Station officer. Some inspector is dealing with them. Right? So such criminals don't deserve to be dealt by the prime minister. He has got his agents who will take care of all this. Prime minister is dealing with, real law-abiding citizens, how to do good to them, how to bring some benefits to them. That's what the prime minister or the chief minister is thinking, not with the criminals. So Hitler and these people, the Lord will not be personally. He has got his agents, and one specific agent who is head of all these kind of criminals to deal with them is Yamaraj. He's a great devotee of the Lord, and he knows the Lord's mind, and he is dealing with them. So he would have dealt with them appropriately.
Right. What is the meaning of death?
Meaning of death. This is one of the very important things Krishna builds up in the Bhagavad Gita. What is death? In fact, the very first instruction of the Bhagavad Gita from Krishna to Arjuna is about death. Ashocyan anvashochastvam nanu shochanti panditha gatasu na gatasumscha nanu shochanti pandita. Gata asun, agata asun. Asun means life. Life gone and life not gone. Living and dead. Those who know what is living, what is death, they do not lament. And although you are talking like a wise man, Arjuna, you are lamenting. for something that a wise man does not lament. In this way, Krishna begins. So it's a very important question you have asked. What is death? Because we all love living. Life is so wonderful, right? There are some companies which say inspired by life. I remember some hospital or something like that. Life is very inspiring. And ultimately, there is something called death, isn't it? We, in fact, don't like to think about it. You know, when I was young, I was still in college. I started reading Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada's books. And then we talk about death in that. I went back to my home and I started talking to my parents. I remember talking to my mother. This was how many? 45 years back. I started talking to my mother one evening. And my mother said, shh, in the evening, after the night lights have been lit up in the house, don't talk about inauspicious thing called death. You see, we consider it very inauspicious. We don't want to talk about it. But the fact is, we all have to encounter it. And we may have so many friends, relatives, loving people with us. But when death comes, we have to experience it alone. It is going to be a private, personal experience. Nobody can participate in it. And so we must know more about death. So Krishna says in the very early part of the Gita, you see, we are saying that we live. Actually, this body is called Deha. In Sanskrit, there is a very nice expression, and the language lends itself for this kind of articulation of this philosophy. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tata dehantara praptihi dhirastatra namuhiti. Bhagavad Gita. Krishna has used two words here, deha and dehi. Deha means the body. Dehi means the occupant in the body. In other words, Krishna is making a distinction. There is a deha and there is an occupant in the body. Just like there is a car and there is a car driver in the car. The driver is the one who is moving around the car. In the same way, there is a driver in this car who is called the Dehi, the occupant. And because the occupant is present, I'm able to speak to you. If I'm a singer, I can sing, I can act, I can think. You can ask a problem, I can solve. If I'm an intelligent person, I'll solve problem. All this I can do when the occupant in the body is present. When that occupant, the spark of life, leaves the body becomes useless. The body which we have protected so much, cared for it, fed the best food, gave the best garments that we could afford, carried the body to the best places that we could afford, gave the best homes that we can afford. All of this body we cared so much. When that life force has left the body, we set it on fire and turn it into ashes. If a small spark falls on our hand, and if our near and dear ones are there, beta, kya ho gaya? Be careful. They will say, isn't it? Right. But when that life air is gone, this body will be set on fire and turned into ashes in a few minutes. No one will say anything. Yeah, what to do? He is gone. So we have to understand that there is a body and there is an occupant in the body. And at some point, the occupant gets separated from the body, which is called death. And this is one aspect which most people understand. There is one more angle to it, dimension to it, which is so important. Although we are an occupant in the body and we have a body, we always mistake ourselves to be the body. We describe ourselves in terms of the body. Our self identity is described in terms of the body, but we are not the body. I'll give you an example. If I ask a person, who are you? He will say, I'm a man or I'm a woman. Where are you from? He'll say, I'm from India, I'm from America, I'm from Africa, I'm from this place, that place. They'll say, tell me a little bit more. You know, I'm about 20 years old, 25 years old, 50 years old, like this. They are describing their body. Like, say, for instance, suppose I bring a man and I ask him, hello, how are you? Nice to meet you. Who are you? And he will say, I am a Toyota Innova. Hey, what do you mean by that? I think you have a car like that. Tell me who you are. Then he will say, I'm silver gray. Maybe you have a silver gray Toyota car. Tell me who you are. And again, he will say, I'm 2023 model. Hey, come on. You are so obsessed with your car, I think. Tell me who you are. Because I'm asking who you are, he's describing his car. Pretty much the same thing is happening to us. If I ask somebody who you are, he's describing his car. Man, woman, Indian, American, this many years old, 20 years old, 50 years old. All the model of his car he's describing. So what happens? We are in the car, but we are so much obsessed with our identity as the car. This is what has happened to us. We are in the body. We are so much obsessed with our identity in terms of the body. We are not the body. This is one of the most important lessons Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita. We are not the body. We are an occupant in the body. We stay in the body for some time, and then we leave this body, move on to another position, another situation, and that's called death. You see how important these principles are taught by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So that is death. When the occupant in the body leaves and abandons the body because the body is no more. Krishna gives one more example. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grihnati naroparani. Just like I'm wearing this shirt. If this shirt is torn, it is stained or whatever happens, I discard this shirt and I wear another kurta. In the same way, when this body is dysfunctional for some reason, or it has become old, jirnani, it has become very old, hey, this body cannot be used anymore. Vihaya, I give up this body. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya. Jirnani vasamsi yata vihaya. Jirnani vasamsi means an old cloth, worn out cloth, dress. We give up and wear a new dress. In the same way, this dress, this body is a dress for the soul. And when it is old, we give up and wear a new body, new dress. That is called death. So we must know these things. You see, you are asking this question, and I'm trying to explain to you from the Bhagavad Gita. Suppose I were to sit in front of a dog and try to explain to the dog, my dear dog, you're a dog. You're actually not a dog. You're actually living in the dog. You have a body of a dog. One day the dog cannot understand anything. His cognitive powers don't allow him to understand and appreciate these things. It's meant for human beings. So human life is so special compared to others. And we must use this gift of human life to understand these things.
So, what is moksha?
Oh my God. Moksha. Okay. The word moksha. Okay. I'll give you an example. The Bhagavatam describes mukti or moksha are equivalent words. Muktir anyatha hitva swarupena vyavastitaha. Mukti is giving up all the false assumptions that we have made about ourselves and to be situated in our true self. I'll give you an example. There is an actor, very famous actor in our country. And in one film, I see he's a king and, such a good actor, dressed as a king. He delivers his dialogues like that. And in the next film, he's a poor man. And I see him suffering, struggling, poverty, no food, no home, no shelter. That's kind of a role he plays. In another role, he's a professor, intelligent fellow, giving class and doing, that kind of a. So, in one role, he was a king, another role, poor man, another role, wise man, and in another film, he'll be something else, and so on. Now, what is his true nature? Isn't it? If I go and ask his wife and children, is he a king? Is he a professor? Is he a poor man? They will tell who he is in truth. Isn't it? So that soul in some body takes a man's body, a woman's body, or a demigod body, or a animal body, or different kinds of body, and we play a certain role. Like we are playing now. I'm a man. Someone is a woman. Someone is rich. Someone is poor. Someone is a wise fellow. All these different kinds of roles. Somebody is a doctor. Somebody is an engineer. Somebody is a lawyer. Somebody is a businessman. Somebody is a stupid fellow. Someone is a car driver. Nothing else. So all these different professions and different roles different people are playing in this movie called The Life. And in our previous life, we played another role. In future lives, in future movies, we will be playing different roles. So what are we in truth? That is called Swarupa. Swarupa, our original true nature or feature or our true form. Swarupena vyavastitaha. Hitva anyatha rupam. To give up all these other anyatha rupam hitva. Swarupena vyavastitaha. And to be situated in our own true feature. That is called mukti. And the Vedic literatures point out, Swarupa of all living entity, Jivere Swarup hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that the Swarupa of all living entity is to be a servant of Krishna. And that is called real mukti.
But then I want to talk about Bhagavad Gita, because, as you said, if Sri Krishna wanted, he could have given the Gita Gyan to Arjun anywhere in the world. But he chose a specific event, he chose a specific point. And Bhagavad Gita, which is considered to be a book which teaches you everything about life, the Gyan of Gita, it came out as a conversation between Arjun and Sri Krishna in a war zone. Why did Sri Krishna choose that specific event, that point, and why did he choose only Arjun?
Very beautiful question you asked. I'll try to answer this. You see, you must understand Arjuna's situation. They had returned from the Vanavas. They asked for their share of the kingdom from their brother, cousin, Duryodhan. And Duryodhan refused. It was a fair share they were asking. So Krishna himself went and asked on behalf of the Pandavas, and Duryodhana refused. All attempts were made, and then the war was inevitable. Now, Pandavas had come from the Vanavas. They had no army. How will they fight? They went around speaking to many kings, and many kings sympathized with Pandavas and said, "We will come. We will bring our army." When this was happening, Duryodhana also went around trying to gather forces to support him. And there were many kings who supported him.
Right.
His cause. They thought that Duryodhana is right. That he should not give. And all of them assembled on the battle of Kurukshetra. You see what is happening? And Krishna, because he was related to both of them, they were all cousins. Krishna said, I will not fight myself, but my army is available. Either you can choose me or my army. It's left to you. Duryodhana grabbed the army. Krishna, I want your powerful army to come from Dwaraka. They should fight for me. And Pandavas were devotees. They said, no, we want Krishna, you to be with us. If you are with us, that's enough for us. Whether it's victory or loss or whatever it is, we want to be you to be with us. They valued Krishna. And Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. This was what is happening. Next, another important feature we must appreciate. When Krishna became the charioteer, Sarathi for Arjuna, and Arjuna said, take the chariot between the two armies, I want to see. And then Senayor Ubhayor Madhye, he took the chariot between the two armies, and then Arjuna saw. And when he was looking who has assembled to fight, he spotted Bhishma, his grandfather. And he was looking around. He saw Drona, his teacher. Then he saw all his cousins with whom they had grown up. All my cousins, they are there. So he was overwhelmed. And at that time, the entire first chapter of the Gita and a little bit of the beginning of the second chapter, Arjuna's response when he sees his own kinsmen, his seniors, assembled to fight, what he says is described in the first chapter and the early part of the second chapter of the Gita. Now, Arjuna's words should be carefully considered there. Our acharyas who have written commentaries on the Gita, they explain all this. If you analyze Arjuna's reasoning, he says, they are my teachers, my grandfathers. They are pujarha. They are worthy of my worship. But look at me, I'm standing here, ready to shoot arrows at them and kill them. It's a very difficult situation Arjuna was in. It's not that, when we read, we usually underestimate it. We have to put ourselves in that situation. Right? Then we will understand the gravity of the situation Arjuna was in. It's not like, say for instance, there is some fight in the family and then your father tells, you go talk to your uncle, tell him this much and come back. You will go and tell, yeah, your uncle, my dear uncle. If your father tells, go kill your uncle and come. That's too much. Isn't it? So Arjuna is standing there and he's supposed to shoot arrows and kill Bhishma, Drona, his cousins, kill them. Not just hurl a few words and hurt them and angry and show some anger and come back. Kill them. Take away their lives. It's a very, very difficult situation Arjuna was in. And so Arjuna says that greed has overpowered them. Should we respond their greed with our greed? Or can we be more gracious? So if you analyze, and then he gives another reason. Krishna, if this battle were to happen, so many soldiers will be killed. And when so many soldiers are killed, let's think what happens to their homes. Their wives will become without a husband. They may have small children. Children will become fatherless. And when there are so many women in the family, in the society, and their husbands are not there, there could be evil people who will go and prey on those women. And what will happen to them? And such men may create more progeny. And those children have no father. And what will happen to them? and they will be misled, and they will commit more sins in life. And because of more sins, there will be more suffering, and I will be the cause of all that. So if you carefully see Arjuna's explanations, he gives very ethical, moral, humanitarian reasons and dharmic reasons. Karma, Papa will come, there will be so much suffering because of, and I'll be the cause. From all angles, Arjuna has covered why he should not fight. And if somebody is reading these arguments, should conclude, yes, this battle should not happen. Over. Arjuna has given the soundest of reasons why this battle should not happen. Now, in that situation, Arjuna presents an alternate view. And hearing Krishna speak for about maybe 1 hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, Arjuna's determination is changed. You see? And he's ready to fight. Nashta moha smrutir labdva karishye vachanam tava. I'll follow your instructions, Krishna. I'm ready to fight. And he fights. So what is that magic that Krishna did in those 45 minutes or 1 hour of talk with Arjuna? What Krishna does, he presents a perspective superior to all the arguments that Arjuna had given. Humanitarian, moral, ethical, dharmic, something that's higher than all this. And that's called the Vedanta perspective. Veda means knowledge. Anta means end. The end of all knowledge. The ultimate of knowledge. That perspective Krishna presents to Arjuna. And when Arjuna becomes aware of it, he's ready to fight. So that is why Bhagavad Gita is very special. In a very succinct manner, in a very brief, concise manner, very easily, Krishna himself has spoken to Arjuna the Vedanta philosophy. And hence, that was the because you asked the question, why did Krishna choose battlefield? That was what was happening to Arjuna there. Because Krishna gave any moral reason, ethical reason, already Arjuna had exhausted and concluded that on these grounds, I should not fight. Now Krishna had to present a new or an alternative perspective. In fact, the highest perspective from the highest knowledge and understanding and wisdom. Krishna presented a perspective, and that is why Bhagavad Gita is very special. That is why Krishna presented this to Arjuna. And why did Krishna choose Arjuna? Very valid question. He didn't present this to some sage,
Right.
some rishi, some tapasvi. He didn't tell this in Himalayas. He didn't tell this in a forest. He told this in a battlefield to Arjuna, who was a warrior. He was a kshatriya, not even a brahmana, not even a grihastha. He had his wife, he had his children. To such a person. But Krishna mentions this in the Gita. Bhaktosi me sayevayam maya tedhya yoga prokta puratana. Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. This knowledge I'm going to present you, Arjuna, is very confidential. It requires, it is something that I can't share freely. It's a very confidential knowledge. But you can receive this knowledge. You can understand this knowledge because you are my bhakta and sakha. You are my devotee and you are my friend. Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetad uttamam. This is a uttama rahasya. But because you are my devotee and my friend, I'm sharing this knowledge. So Acharyas write commentary on this and say, Bhagavad Gita can be properly understood only in a devotional framework. Otherwise, it's a confidential knowledge. People will miss out. So that was the extraordinary qualification Arjuna had. It was not that Brahmana is not required, sannyasi is not required, forest is not required, Himalaya is not required. You can be in your present situation and you can practice Bhagavad Gita. This was another reason Krishna was teaching. Anyone can practice the message of Bhagavad Gita in any situation, even in the most trying and demanding situation like a battlefield. I'll give you one example. Srila Prabhupada, who went around the world presenting the message of Bhagavad Gita. He wrote commentary on the Gita. He gave many, many classes, about 300 different, 400 classes Prabhupada gave on Bhagavad Gita. All of them has been put into books. It's about 11 or 12 volumes of books are there. So Prabhupada was taking this message of the Gita, message of the Vedanta all over the world. Prabhupada went to Australia once, and one press reporter came to ask him some questions. And Prabhupada, and that press reporter was wearing a suit. Like those Westerners, they wear a suit and a tie, and they were having a microphone and they were trying to record what he says. And they asked him, that reporter asked him, India is a land of mystics and ascetics, tapasvi, right? You see, you go to the Kumbh Mela, you'll see so many tapasvis are there. So much austerity they all do, and for realizing that. So that man, the news reporter asked, so have you come to teach such asceticism to Australians? So Prabhupada was very close to, his elderly person, Prabhupada was. He held his suit, pulled his suit. I've come to teach you how to love God wearing this dress also. It does not matter what you are wearing, where you are, what it is. I've come to teach you how to be a lover of God. This was the message. So the message of Bhagavad Gita is such that one can practice this in any situation of life. And that's what Krishna is telling. Even though it's a battlefield, one can practice, one can understand and appreciate. Right.
But then you mentioned one very interesting thing, which was Shree Krishna. He offered either himself or his army to Duryodhan and Arjun.
Yeah.
Duryodhan picks Shree Krishna's army, Arjun picks Shree Krishna. Shree Krishna, being Shree Krishna, he knew what the outcome of that war was going to be, and he still gave up his army. And I'm guessing for a king, his army is the most precious thing, and still he chose to give away his army. How could he give that army to Duryodhan, whom he knew was going to lose this war?
In all these acts of the Lord, he's conveying something. Krishna's army represents Krishna's energy, his force, his capability, fighting capability with in the form of the army. Krishna is demonstrating a devotee of Krishna is interested in Krishna, not in his Shakti. A devotee loves the Lord, not because he has got Shakti. He just loves the Lord. Pandavas were devotees of that class. Lot of people in this world want the Shakti of the Lord, not the Lord. Ravan is an example of that. Ravan wanted Sita, who is the Shakti of the Lord. He didn't want Ram. And he wanted the Shakti of the Lord for his enjoyment. One should not desire to possess the Shakti of the Lord for one's enjoyment, but one should use the Shakti of the Lord or engage the Shakti of the Lord for the pleasure, for the service of the Shaktiman, the owner of that Shakti, who is the Lord. So Duryodhana and such people, they want the energy of God and they want to use it for their benefit. Whereas Pandavas don't care. We want the Lord. We want the Shaktiman. Duryodhana wants the Shakti so that he can use that Shakti for his objective of winning the war. Pandavas, they want the Lord. We want to be with the Lord. So that is the attitude of a devotee. So Krishna is demonstrating how a devotee thinks, how a non-devotee thinks. So like this, in all these acts of the Lord, there is something that we can learn. And Krishna was ready. You want to take my Shakti? You can have my Shakti too.
Right.
This material world is his Shakti. It's a manifestation of his Shakti. Like I was telling you, a man worked hard and built his house. So the house has come from him. In the same way, this material world, it has come from Krishna. It is his Shakti. And we are all here trying to enjoy this world by manipulating it, by organizing it, by reconfiguring it this way, by capitalism, by communism, by socialism, by thisism, thatism, how to enjoy for ourselves. Where is God here? God is the owner of everything. We have no God in our plan at all. On the other hand, if we think all of this is energy of God,
Right.
it is God's Shakti, so it should be used in God's Shakti. In that way, let me engage with the world. Then you get a different perspective. It's not that you don't have to have politics. It's not that you don't have to have industry. It's not that you don't have to have technology. You can have industry, you can have technology, you can have economy. You can have all of this with God in the center. We are trying to do everything without God. This is a mistake. This is a fundamental mistake. And whose kingdom this is? This is God's kingdom. It's his world. He owns this. Isha vasyamidam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Every single bit of this universe is belonging to the Lord. Suppose I come to your house. You seat me in the living room. And you will say, very nice, Prabhuji, you came. Can I get you some milk? And you will go inside to bring some milk or something. And I'll look around in the house. Hey, look at this. There is a clock here. There is a watch here. It's a Switzerland watch. Oh, look at this. Here there is something. Oh. And then you come in front of me. And then I'll sip the milk or whatever you've given me. And then thank you very much. And I slowly exit. Is it fair? They were your valuable things that you have collected from whatever, it's your property. And I took that and I walked out. I'm a thief. In the same way, we come into this world, we don't recognize who is the owner of all these things. We just grab it for our use, for our advantage, disregarding who is the owner of all this. When somebody disregards the owner and uses it for himself, he's called a thief. That's exactly what we are doing. A world, a civilization which recognizes God as the owner of everything is a saintly civilization. A civilization which disregards or keeps away God out of their normal engagement is not a civil society. This is basic civility. This is the perspective Krishna is bringing, the Bhagavatam, the Vedic literature. This is Sanatan Dharma. Recognize who is the owner of everything. In every aspect you recognize. In your profession, in your personal life, in your day-to-day life, in your eating, in your sleeping, recognize God. That is God-centered life. That's the kind of a life Bharat's civilization was. And that's going away. This is what Srila Prabhupada wanted to present to the whole world. Let's live a life with God in the center, because this is God's world. We are God's children. A child who is indifferent to the father and mother, after taking all the benefits of the father and mother, brought up the child. gave the education, gave the food. The mother cleaned its back, did everything. And now the child is saying, who cares for the father and mother? Is that sane? Is that reasonable? No. We must recognize that Krishna says, Pitaha masya jagata mata dhata pitamaha. I am the father, I am the mother, I am the grandsire, I am the provider of the entire universe. That is Krishna's position. We are taking all that from Krishna and disregarding him. How unfair it is. So now you see, recognizing God, having God in the center of our lives, is not religion. It's gentlemanliness. It's civic. It's civil. It's civilized life. How that fundamentally important Krishna is for everyone.
Do you think dharma is situational rather than being absolute? Because when we look at Sri Krishna's life, again, the example that you gave about chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is presenting his reasons why he doesn't want to fight a war against his own kin, whereas Sri Krishna is motivating him to fight that war. So, at one hand, where we are told, where we are taught that we must not kill, and especially our own kin, Sri Krishna is motivating him to kill his kin. But he has his reasons and he is motivating Arjun for those reasons. So, is dharma situational rather than being absolute?
We have to understand this word dharma has multiple meanings, has many dimensions of understanding. I'll give you one example. Long ago, about maybe 10, 15 years or 20 years back, there was one person, visitor to our temple, and he came and said, I found a mistake in the Bhagavad Gita. And there was a devotee who was trying to sell a Bhagavad Gita to him, and he was arguing with him. And so the devotee brought him to me. And he came to me, and then I was talking, I engaged in a conversation, trying to understand. He said, I found a mistake in the Bhagavad Gita. I asked him, what have you found? So many big acharyas have written vyakhyana, commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita, and they were all reverential, and they didn't find anything wrong in it. And who is this fellow upstart coming and saying, I found a mistake? And he had a reason. He said, he knew a little bit, at least some things. He said, see, Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. This is one of the famous statements of the Lord in the 18th chapter, concluding Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Give up all dharma and surrender to me. So he's saying, Krishna should have said, Sarva adharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. So Krishna seems to have made a mistake. So, it's interesting. Why it's very interesting why Krishna says Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam. Because in the earlier chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. I come to establish Dharma. And he's telling, give up all Dharma in the end. What is this contradiction? That's why we have to understand these things very carefully. You see, there are many gradations of Dharma. As the soul advances in spiritual understanding, his Dharma, his duties will also evolve. So there are some dharmas, it's like this. Mathematics is very important. For a first standard student, there is one kind of mathematics. Right. When you come to fifth standard, there's another kind of that. 10th standard, you come to 12th standard, you come to college, you come to postgraduate. Mathematics is important gradually. You see? So, in the same way, there are certain dharma or duties that are explained to a person according to a certain level,
Mm.
and that will help him move to the next level. And then there is a next level, a next level. This is a gradual, slow process of evolution of spirit, of the consciousness, spiritual consciousness of the living entity. This is the process that is, it's a multi-life program, evolution program, a multi-life transformation, evolution uh, program, so that the living entity becomes more and more connected with God. But Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, he's presenting an alternative. Don't go the slow process. Why is it? Because Krishna is speaking just towards the end of Dwapar Yuga and the beginning of Kali Yuga. It's all situational, important at that. So Krishna is seeing that Kali Yuga is coming. For people of Kali Yuga, where there are so many challenges, for them a long, slow, multi-life process is not, we need something accelerated process now. Prabhupada gives an example. Suppose there's a 100-story building. One way you can go to the 100th story is staircase is there. First floor, come to the second floor, third floor. You can slowly go. It's very tiring, but it will take you to the 100th floor. There is another way. There is a lift. Take the lift and press the 100th button. In a few minutes, few seconds, the door will open. You're in the 100th floor. Krishna is presenting an alternate method in the Bhagavad Gita. And so Krishna is saying, don't go through this slow process of this slow dharmic process. You take another method. Give up the staircase. Take the lift. Come and surrender to me. I will take you. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Surrender to me, sharanagati. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. I will free you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So that is why Krishna says, surrender to me, sharanagati. And that sharanagati is the highest dharma. That sharanagati leads us to another state, which is the highest dharma. Sharanagati leads to bhakti. Bhakti in its highest stage is called prema bhakti. And that is the highest. Savai pumsam paro dharma yata bhakti radhokshaja ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. The highest dharma is that which will enable us to render loving service to the Lord without any ulterior motivation and without any break, under all circumstances, wanting to serve the Lord with love and devotion. That is the highest dharma, the Bhagavatam explains. So Krishna is trying to present that. And an earlier step before bhakti, before sharanag, before that such prema bhakti is sharanagati. Sharanagati means aligning myself with the Lord's intent. I'm having my own intent now. I must align it with Lord's intent. That's called Sharanagati. So that is why, that's how Krishna presents Dharma, and the highest Dharma is coming to the point of loving devotion to Krishna.
But then every religion, not just Hinduism, it teaches us not to have ego. But in the modern world, religions have become a point or the subject of people's ego. Why is that?
Very sad. It's a fact, what you're saying. In the name of religion, fights are there.
Yeah.
You see, why it is there, why it is happening. This is the nature of this yuga called Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is also called Kalaha Yuga, means an age of quarrel. For smallest thing, we will fight. When car bumps into another car, there's a small scratch, and there's, man, go punch him. Right? For small things. Even within families, there is fight.
Mhm.
It's very sad. That's the nature of the atmosphere. So, especially people who follow religion have a higher responsibility to set a right example to the world. And what is happening is, it's a very unique thing. This is another this is another perspective Srila Prabhupada presents. There are multiple religions in the world. You cannot deny that, right? It's a fact. And there are different religions have different names of God and understanding of God, and the practices of the religion are different. And hence, two people compare next to each other, your religion, my religion, and there is some difference, and they pick up and they try to fight. How do we understand this? Why there are multiple religions? If there is one, Prabhupada said there is one God. Sun is rising over India. Will the sun become Indian sun? If the sun is shining on America, will it become American sun? Sun is sun for everybody. In the same way, there is no such thing as a Hindu God, a Muslim God, and a different Christian God. God is God for everyone. Now, God has made an arrangement to know Him and to learn about Him in different cultures and different civilizations in the history of humanity. And all these civilizations were being practiced in a small, secluded, isolated pockets. Because there was not easy travel. Travel was very difficult. Like in our country, people in South India would dream, one day in my life, if I can go to Kashi and have a dip in Ganga and come back. People in North India would dream, one day if I can go to Rameshwaram and have a dip and come back. That's how it was. Now it's very different. Travel has become very easy. You can take a flight from South India to Varanasi, and we have an airport there, and you can, by spending a few thousands of rupees, you can reach there. So God appeared in different civilizations. God either himself or his representatives, his son, his messenger. God sends, and they taught about God in a way that culture, that civilization, that audience could appreciate and understand. In a way that they could understand. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. You may be a mathematics professor, advanced mathematics. I take you to a school, put you in a classroom, all first standard students. And I'll tell, Professor, can you please teach them some mathematics? And you will be thinking, oh, small children, what can I teach mathematics? I deal with such advanced mathematics. How can these children understand? So you will adjust your level. You will tell them, my dear children, there is one basket. There are 3 apples in it. And there is another basket with 5 apples. Now I'll mix all the apples into one basket. How many apples do I have? Maybe they can understand and they can explain. You may know a lot of things, but you have to simplify it according to the audience you're communicating with. Right. In the same way, God's representatives, God's messengers, God's sons came to this world in different pockets of civilizations and taught about God to the extent that civilization, that audience could understand. That is, and the audience were like that, and the climatic situations were like that, the language was like that, the culture was like that, their food habits, lifestyles were different. So they made small modifications in their lifestyle so that in a way that they can remember God and think about God and make some advancement towards God consciousness. And now, come to modern century, where there is travel, internet, mobile, all these kind of things happening. There is mixing of these civilizations. And now they compare their different things. Hey, your religion says like that, my religion says, this is not, that's not, and we fight. So Prabhupada said, we should see the core of every religion is the same, which teaches us we must recognize God and we must learn to love God. The practices of the religion, which are adjusted according to time, place, and circumstances, there will be difference. Let's not fight about the different differences in our practices. Let's see the core of the religion, the essence of the religion, which is to love God. So this is the way Srila Prabhupada presented, because he was presenting from a global perspective. He was presenting Bhagavad Gita from a global perspective. So he said that it's not that our religion, your religion is bad, my religion, there's no such thing. In fact, Prabhupada gives it is called How to Read the Vedic Literatures. Srila Prabhupada explains how to read the Vedic literatures. There is the verse, Savai Pum, I mentioned this earlier, right. I'll mention once again. Savai Pum Sam Paro Dharma Yatha Bhaktiradhokshaja Ahaitukya Pratihata Yayatma Suprasidati. Here the question was asked. It's actually, this is from the Bhagavatam. It's a conversation that's happening between the sages and one very learned sage. This happened in Naimisharanya. Naimisharanya is not very far from here. It's on the outskirts of Lucknow. Nimsar is the district now. That's in the Vedic text, it is described as Naimisharanya, the forest which existed. This conversation was happening there. And the sages were asking the question, what is the highest dharma? Whatever the word dharma means, now the question is, what paro dharma? Param dharma, paradharma, paro dharma. So the answer that the wise sage Sutta Goswami, Sutta Muni, who was answering them, he says, Savai pumsam paro dharma yatha bhaktiradhokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. He says that activity in the human society which leads one to become a lover of God, unmotivated and uninterrupted lover of God. Not a lover of God with some motivation. I'll go worship this God, I'll do my religion, I'll get my this benefit, I'll get that benefit. And if I don't get that benefit, I will stop worshiping God. It is not that kind of a dharma. So it is out of love. So that activity which enables human beings come to the platform of love of God, which is pure, unmotivated, and uninterrupted, that is the highest dharma. You see how the Bhagavatam describes, how Srila Prabhupada is explaining this from a on a broader perspective. So, and of course, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, teaches how to become that pure lover of God. There are other religions which also intends to teach them how to love God, but the Vedic literatures are more expansive in the detailing. Prabhupada gave an example because he had disciples from Christian background, from Muslim background, Jewish background, Hindu background. He had disciples from all kinds of backgrounds. Prabhupada said, the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, all of them are teaching us how to love God. But in some of the books, there is more detailed knowledge. And in some, because of certain circumstances, there may be limited information. Prabhupada gave the example, there is a pocket dictionary, and sometimes there is a multi-volume dictionary. Both dictionaries are having the same purpose to give the meaning of a word. In a pocket dictionary, very succinctly, very briefly, it gives. If you take a multi-volume, it will say in medieval English, the word was used in this way. Shakespeare used in this way. Modern times, it is used in this way. In America, they use it this way. In England, they use it this way. In Australia, they use it. More information is available in a multi-volume dictionary. In the same way, the Vedic literatures are more expansive. There is one beautiful statement. Jesus says in the Bible, I have many things to tell you, but you are not ready. I have many things to share with you, but you are not ready. So, in other words, Jesus wanted to say more things, but he felt that his audience were not ready. Now, you compare that with a statement in the Bhagavad Gita. Gnanam teham savignanam idam vakshamya sheshataha yagnatva bhuyonyat gnatavyam avashishyate. Krishna says to Arjuna, now I'll explain to you that knowledge in completion. Gnanam teham savignanam idam vakshyami asheshataha. Sheshataha means leftover. Asheshataha means nothing is left over. Right. Completely I will explain. Gnanam teham savignanam idam vakshyamya sheshataha yagnatva bhuyonyat gnatavyam avashishyate. Having known this, there shall remain nothing else to be known for you. This is the complete knowledge I'm sharing with you. Now you see this statement and that statement. Yeah. It is because not that Jesus didn't know. You are a mathematics professor. I put you in front of a first standard students. What can you do? You can teach only to that extent. You know a lot of mathematics. No, Jesus is also a representative of God. He knows he's a lover of God. But the audience in front of him, he was teaching them, thou shalt not commit adultery with your neighbor's wife. That means they were doing such things. Yeah. Thou shalt not kill. That means they were killing around. Thou shalt not steal others. So he's telling, because they were such people, he was giving them as the commandments. Whereas in the Vedic culture, it was a different kind of a situation. So in the Vedic culture also, there are such instructions. You should not commit, you should not covet your neighbor's wife. Such the instructions are also there. But there are other kinds of instructions also. So there is a different situation existed in India. And there were sages who could reflect on and develop this whole understanding about God. So it is not really that my religion is superior, your religion is not superior. We don't want to get into those kind of things. We respect all religions and all teachers of religion. They're all, Prabhupada said, they're all our gurus. So we respect them utmost. Because under the circumstances, God makes this arrangement. He is always making arrangements how humanity can know God, how humanity can love God. This is God's greatest concern. And he is making different arrangements in different circumstances, in different civilizations, in different times. So this is how Srila Prabhupada presented Vedic truth on a global platform.
Prabhuji, can I ask you a controversial question? Because whenever someone talks about Sri Krishna, they have to talk about Radha Rani. And in the recent past, I've seen a lot of people who have been saying that nobody like Radha Rani ever existed. What is the truth about this, and who is Radha Rani exactly?
Generally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Acharyas and Srila Prabhupada would not talk about Radharani in public.
Why is that?
It's a very, very confidential subject. It requires extraordinary qualifications to understand. It is the personal life of God. Say, for instance, we are talking about Chief Justice of India. What he does in his home, it's confidential, isn't it?
Right.
Only a few people, his close confidants, they will know about it. Not everyone. Everyone will know some from a distance. They will know he has a wife, he has got children, they're doing this much. In the same way, God is a person. This is the greatest knowledge and revelation given in the Vedic literature. That absolute truth we were talking about. Truth is not just a phenomena. It is not just some kind of a field. It is not some kind of an energy. It is some kind of a force in the universe. No, there is a person behind that. Yes, there is a Shakti in this universe which is operating and working this universe, but behind that Shakti, there is a Shaktiman. There is a person. That person is the absolute person. He is the Param Satya. From him, everything has come. Just like from the sun, sunshine comes. In the same way, from him, all the manifestation has come. We can say, we have the plants here in this room. We have so many trees around us. All trees are manifestation of sun and sun Shakti. It's right to say, isn't it? If the sun was not there, plants wouldn't grow.
Right.
In the same way, there is Krishna, who is the absolute truth person. From him, everything has come. And all of this is manifestation of. Now, if you say he is a person, I want to know more about him. What is he like? What does he do? What delights him? What is he engaged in? These are all very advanced topics. When somebody is more spiritually evolved, can understand.
Right.
So hence, the subject matter about Radha Rani is kept confidential in the Vedic literatures. Confidential means it requires special qualifications to access that knowledge. Prabhupada gave one example. I'll tell you, very nice. There is a man in the street. He's walking. He looks at the bank. He goes to the bank. He looks around, and then there is cashier. He goes to the cashier. He leans forward, and he looks at the cashier, and he asks him, how much money is there in the bank today? What will the cashier do? He'll immediately call the security and have him thrown out.
Right.
Correct? Now, an hour later, 2 hours later, the manager of the bank, he's making his rounds. He's meeting the customers. He's talking to somebody. And then he comes to the cashier's counter. He also leans forward and he asks, how much money is there in the bank today? Immediately the cashier will look, sir, and he will jump up. He'll open his ledger or open his computer, whatever. And then he'll say, sir, today I'm having 44,55,320. He'll tell the full amount is there. See, how much money is there in the bank is confidential information.
Right.
Somebody from the street, he has no qualifications to know that. The manager has all the qualifications to access that information. So, in the same way, in the Vedic literatures, there is some information which is considered confidential, meaning people, when they acquire the qualification, can access that. Before acquiring the qualifications, it is irrelevant for them. It's better you keep that away from them.
Yeah.
They will misuse it. If the cashier tells how much money is there in the bank to the man in the street, he will think he'll get ideas. It's not good for him. It's not good for the bank. Better keep it. You send him away. I won't tell you. It's confidential. Send him away. In the same way, there is some knowledge about that absolute truth, person, and that is kept confidential. But nevertheless, Shastras make that knowledge available and say that one has to acquire these qualifications and then can access that. So Radharani is Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikrutir Ahladini Shaktihi Asma. The Shastras describe Lord has many Shakti. His Lord is Shaktiman. He's a person. He has many Shakti. Upanishad says, Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. That Parasya, that Supreme, has multiple Shaktis. One of the Shakti of the Lord is the manifestation of the material world. That Shakti manifests as Panchabhuta, and the Panchabhuta transforms itself, and we have the world. Another Shakti of the Lord is the Jiva, we living entities. We are also a Shakti of the Lord, an energy of the Lord, an emanation of the Lord. So, and He is the ultimate person. Now, there is another Shakti of the Lord. That Shakti He engages with, and that Shakti gives Him pleasure. And that Shakti is called Ahladini Shakti. And that Ahladini Shakti personification is Srimati Radha Rani. In simple terms, she is the greatest devotee of the Lord. She is the greatest. She does the greatest and the most pleasing aradhana of the Lord. That is why she is called Radha, one who does the highest aradhana of the Lord. And so, Radharani is the greatest devotee who is always trying to please Krishna. And it is her bhakti, her shakti, which is infused, which brings bhakti, bhakti in the heart of the living entity, by which we can also please the Lord. So this is an intricate
Right.
and advanced subject. I'm just, in few words, I'm trying to explain this.
Yeah. Prabhuji, right now we are sitting in Vrindavan Chandrodaya Mandir. I really want to know what was the thought behind this, and my audience would also love to know that, because when I was walking around in the campus, it's a gigantic campus, and there's so much happening at every corner. There's Gaushala, there's farming, there's a lot of things that are happening inside the temple as well. So, what was the thought behind creating something like this?
Srila Prabhupada had envisioned that this knowledge of the Gita and the Bhagavatam and the Vedanta, which is telling about God and the details of God and about love of God and how one can develop that love of God to the highest level and how one can develop the pure love of God. This is very, very special information, and this should be shared with the whole world. And so Prabhupada gave extensive direction how we should do it. And we are trying to implement some of these instructions of Srila Prabhupada in this campus. And so that when people come, they pick up something about Krishna, some knowledge about Krishna, some understanding, some appreciation according to their appetite. What propels a person to move ahead in spiritual development? It is his own appetite. It is called in Sanskrit a technical word called laulyam. Laulyam means eagerness. That I want to know about God. Because God won't, He's a perfect gentleman. He won't force Himself on you unless you want to know. Sadhya hridya varudhyate shushrushu bisthat kshanat. Another word that is used in Sanskrit in the Vedic literature is shushrushu. Shushrushu means similar. Laulyam. Shushrushu means our eagerness. Laulyam is a little bit more stronger word, which means greed to know God. I want to know God. I'm ready to set aside everything else. I want to understand God. That is called laulyam. So when the living entity develops this, Krishna will bless that living entity with more and more understanding. So when people come to our campus, we want to trigger in different ways their inquisitiveness, their interest in God, and in whichever way, like you said, Talked about Goshala. We have a restaurant which is serving prasadam. Prasadam restaurant it is, not an ordinary restaurant. We also have free prasadam to give to people. We have Akshay Patra here, where we prepare food and distribute to school children. So all kinds of, in different ways, people come in touch with God. They hear about Krishna. There is always Krishna Nam, bhajans going on. They see the Murti of the Lord, Vigraha of the Lord, and pay their respects. We have festivals connected with the Lord. So in this way, we want people to come and touch Krishna in different ways, according to their nature, according to their level of appetite. You know, it is said that if you touch an electric wire, you'll get the shock. Isn't it? So we want to manifest Krishna's presence in different ways so that people can touch and get, this is Krishna. So that they will become enlightened. They will become, their life will become enriched. And in this way, we want to impart a consciousness of the Supreme who is providing, maintaining all of us, and we owe it to Him that we turn our attention to Him and thank Him, be grateful to Him, and develop our relation with Him. So that was the intention of our Acharya, and we are Srila Prabhupada, and we are trying to manifest that.
But why a 70-floor tall temple? I don't think so there's any temple that is this tall, right?
You know what happens? Vrindavan is very special. Krishna is very special. We have been discussing how Krishna says, Mattaha parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya Mayi sarvamidam protam sutre maniganaiva. Krishna says, there is no truth, principle, reality higher than me. I am that supreme truth and I am the high supreme reality. Everything is resting on me, just like pearls rest on the thread. See, for instance, you see a necklace. It looks very good. If somebody wears the necklace, it has got colors and stones, glittering, pearls, pattern, design. But there is a thread which is holding it. If you snap that thread, it'll all fall apart. In the same way, we look at the world, buildings, mountains, rivers, beautiful things. It's Krishna, He's holding it. If Krishna leaves it, lets it go, it'll collapse. And you see, in the manigana, in the necklace, you will see the beautiful pattern, everything. You don't see the thread. Thread is hidden. Krishna is hidden. He's making this manifestation in front of us, but He's hidden. So that only those who are inquisitive, who are eager to know Him, to Him He reveals. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritaha. I'm not revealed to everyone. Only when they want to know, I'm ready to reveal. So this is the way Krishna operates. So Krishna is so important in everyone's life. And Krishna appeared here and He did His leelas here. And this is the fountainhead of all knowledge and understanding of Krishna. So how important Vrindavan is. And but it is not known. Vrindavan is not known. Vrindavan's glories are not known. Even in India to some extent, right? Everywhere Krishna is. In North India to some extent there is knowledge, but other parts of India not so much known. And rest of the world, definitely. So we wanted Vrindavan, Krishna's message to be well known around the world. And in modern language, in modern times, the modern idiom is you communicate the importance of something through an iconic structure. See, when you have Eiffel Tower, you think of Paris. When you talk about Dubai, what comes to your mind is the Burj Khalifa. Like this, in modern language, an monumental structure, an iconic structure, a grand, beautiful structure makes a statement about its importance. And hence, we wanted to have an iconic temple by the blessings of our Acharya and Shree Krishna and Srimati Radha Rani, that if we can manifest this here, and this will broadcast the glories of Krishna and the message of Krishna, which is so much essential for the whole world. So that is how we thought we should have a magnificent, grand. In fact, I must not say we thought. Srila Prabhupada thought about it. Srila Prabhupada spoke in 1972 when he was sitting in a temple, ancient temple here, not very far from Chandrodaya Mandir, in Radha Damodar Mandir, in front of one of our acharyas, Rupa Goswami, in his front of his samadhi and bhajan kutir. He was giving a class. He said that modern man has a tendency, I must expand my sense enjoyment. And he builds skyscrapers to expand his enjoyment. Now, a devotee should think, let me build a skyscraper temple for Krishna, for the glory of Krishna. So that spirit Srila Prabhupada has given us. And so just taking it forward, we are trying to making a humble attempt to make that happen.
Prabhuji, I want to ask one last question for this podcast, and it could be a very silly question as well. Um, if you ever get a chance to meet Shri Krishna, what will be one question that you'll ask him?
Srila Prabhupada has taught us we should ask Krishna, how can I serve you? How can I please you? Please engage me in your service. Please see that I don't forget you. That should be what we should be asking.
Prabhuji, thank you so much for this conversation. I absolutely enjoyed. I think we recorded for more than 2 hours, and I hope I didn't bore you.
Not at all. It was such a happy thing to talk to you.
Yeah.
Very, very good questions you have.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And I absolutely enjoyed this conversation because it helped me move ahead in my spiritual journey. So thank you so much for this.
Most welcome. Namaste.
Namaste.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.